conspiracies go on and on and on, and yet everybody wants to make a bet. Leader Fan Radio Network.
What do you mean?
And KFAN.com. 2 minutes and 40 seconds past the hour of 3 o'clock Central Daylight Saving Time. Welcome back. Monday edition, bumper to bumper. Afternoon aardvark on a pretty balmy Monday afternoon here in the Twin Cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul. Guardsy is back in the building. My name is Dan Barreiro from Inkstein Wretch, newspaper of the Twin Cities. We will be here until 6:30 tonight, 3 until 6:30 this very evening. Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line is available, or soon will be, as once I type in my verification code at 64686. It just keeps happening, Guardsy, and maybe this story will not get as much attention because, much to the chagrin of many of our soccer enthusiasts, the scandal involves soccer in the United States of America. And it's gotten bigger, but it's never grown as exponentially on the professional level as was predicted about, 30 years ago? Right? It just hasn't.
Probably. No.
It's bigger, but it's not massive. So I don't even know how many people are aware of this story. Are you aware of this story?
I might be.
Former MLS players Derek Jones and I'm going to mangle this name on the health and soccer community. Yibo have been banned for life because of betting on MLS matches. Jones had been playing for the Columbus Crew. Yibo, most recently for LAFC and previously played for Columbus with Jones. They'd been placed on administrative leave a year ago and change, October 2025. And it turns out that they not only bet on soccer, they bet on their own games. That's not good, is it? Is that
not advisable?
Is that advisable?
No.
In any league, even soccer, where I know everything and anything goes. Lifetime bans. Investigation found that the players engaged in extensive gambling on soccer, including on their own teams during the 2024 and 25 seasons. In one instance, both players bet on Jones to receive a yellow card. You can't make this up. During an October 19, 2024 match between Columbus and the New York Red Bulls. And lo and behold, Jones received a yellow card in the 35th minute for a foul. The league said it determined that the players likely shared confidential information with other bettors about their intent to draw yellow cards. MLS has worked with jurisdictions that allow betting to remove yellow and red cards as part of betting opportunities, and those efforts have been successful. There are 52 total jurisdictions, and of those, 41 allow betting, 33 do not allow cards, and 15 of those change rules after outreach from the league. The MLS did say there was no evidence that was identified that suggested any of these betting activities affected the outcome of a match. So it sounds like they don't have signs that they tried to throw a match.
The old prop bet, though.
But the prop bet, in this case, the yellow card. Because is there anything more easily under the control of an athlete than yellow card in soccer, right?
You can easily get
genius.
One.
Yeah. It's not that tough to do. Because if you're a basketball player and you're trying to miss shots, well, I guess you can be pretty good at that, but a couple of them still might go in, and you have to do it repeatedly. One yellow card apparently turned everything around. So the scourge of betting hits the world of soccer. This doesn't, I'm sure, surprise anyone. I'm sure there have been betting scandals internationally in soccer.
Huge ones.
But banned for life is about as banned as you can get, correct?
And if you're banned from the MLS, there's not many other leagues you can go to and have a good living or have a good life, right?
I don't think so.
As it is, MLS is a step down from, as much as it's grown, and I know we just got a good player.
Yeah.
It's a step down from the Premier League. It's a step down from other things internationally. MLS,
Where's Lavelle on this?
I think it's kind of a safe haven for people, and now they ruined it.
Is he outraged? Is he bored with it? Because is he too busy? He's still at spring training, I assume.
Oh, yeah, that's right. He was going there.
Yeah, we talked to him Friday from spring training. So he's the soccer guy, isn't he? Allegedly, locally?
He has been. He's been one of them.
Is he outraged? Is he bored with it? I'd like to get some. Has he tweeted about it at all? Or is he, like I said, the Twins can be mesmerizing. You get down there for spring training, and isn't it kind of hard to pay attention to much of anything else?
It is.
You just get lost in it because
the beautiful mess.
Is that what it's called?
That the Twins are.
The beautiful mess, yeah. You're probably right about that. I'd love to hear from the soccer community as well. Bradshaw and Bryant, KFAN text line 64686. There will be plenty of free agency, football, NFL free agency talk on the program. Don't worry, we haven't forgotten it. I wouldn't call any of the moves the Vikings have made thus far as seismic, right? We've lost our punter, finally had a breakthrough year. He's gone, right?
It was a good run.
We lost our number 3 wide receiver. We gained a depth cornerback, people tell me, so far, correct? More details on all of that with Kevin Seifert, who I mistakenly thought was going to be in studio. He says, not so fast, my friend. He'll be on the phone.
Right.
Coming up next segment, Johnny Athletic, also part of the uglydeck.com guest lineup today, will join at 4:02 on his way to Los Angeles, California, where he's going to be tracking his favorite professional basketball team.
He never misses the LA two-step, does he?
Isn't that funny how that works?
He never misses the LA trip.
Or other parts of California, too.
He's usually there.
You ever see him go to Charlotte?
I don't think he has. He goes to Memphis, so I will give him a little bit.
Yeah, that's true.
I should say he has gone to Memphis. I don't know if he does go to Memphis.
5:30, I requested and received the go-ahead to get bonus Ben Gessling today, and I don't think we're going to talk a lot of football with him. I'm sure it'll come up, but believe it or not, I want to talk to Ben Gessling, our marathon man, about a pretty stunning finish to the L.A. Marathon. Correct? This was in Los Angeles, I think.
It was.
Where the one thing you don't associate with a marathon is what? A sprint to the finish. A late kick wins the race. That's supposed to be a contradiction in terms when it comes to marathoners. And yet, a track coach, I think from Michigan, did exactly that with a late kick at the finish, at the buzzer, to win the LA Marathon. It's great video. I even sent you, I think, some sound associated with it, which we might play later. I've sent you a bunch of sound today. Did you get it all?
Yes.
It's
all pulled up.
It's none of the sound bites I sent you are necessarily related, but I think they all have might provide interest to our listeners as well. So all that'll be part of the discussion. I've not heard anything today specifically about your guy, Kyler Murray, other than we are the odds-on favorite, according to Vegas, to sign him.
And all the quarterback gurus think he should come here if he knows what's good for him.
That's what they think, too.
That's what they think.
I still have not been, I'm not convinced, but it may not matter that I'm not convinced. And are you convinced? I can't remember where
I'm more convinced than you to give it a shot.
Well, I've said, obviously once he's here, then you'd have to let it play out. But I grit my teeth thinking that's where we are. It just bugs me. That's where we are.
That's what I said on Wednesday.
We have to have faith in the Kyler Murray coming to the rescue. So, okay, we're happy for you. Anyway, let's make this our first pause so we can stay on schedule. And then we'll have a chance to talk to Seifert. Find out where he is on the Kyler Murray story, on who has left the Vikings, who is headed to the Vikings, maybe some other salary cap issues as well. If you have questions or comments, Bradshaw and Bryant, KFAN text line 64686. Back in just a minute. John Athletic will join us at about 4:02 today. Bonus Ben Gessling to talk marathon running, believe it or not, more than football. The football fix early will be provided by our next guest, Kevin Seifert, ESPN.com, joins us via the Connecticut Water Systems hotline. Very disappointed to find out you're not going to be in studio today, but on the other hand, I know it's a very, very busy time where I'm assuming you constantly have to you got to have your finger on the pulse of what the next move will be by your favorite football team.
Yes, I'm glued to I guess I could say I'm glued to the phone and texts and phone calls, but I'm also glued to social media, where chances are that's where I'll hear about it first, along with everybody else.
All right, so give us, for those who haven't been paying attention today, who we added today and who we subtracted.
Yes, so 2 additions in the past 24 hours. I guess Eric Wilson, the linebacker, would be
that's fair.
A return.
Yep.
He became a starter early last season and really had a great, his best NFL season. Really a perfect fit for Brian Flores and the blitzing scheme from the inside linebackers. So he got a 3-year, $22.5 million deal, by far the best contract he's ever gotten in his career as he approaches his 32nd birthday. So that's pretty awesome for him. And they signed James Pierre, a cornerback who spent most of his career with the Steelers, where he was coached by the Vikings' new defensive backs coach, Gerald Alexander. Brian Flores was an assistant there when he was there in 2022. So there's a lot of familiarity. I would expect him to be in contention for that third cornerback spot. They really only have 2 veteran cornerbacks under contract, and that's Byron Murphy Jr. and Isaiah Rodgers. So definitely needed some depth there. He's also a pretty good special teams player, and so he will be a part of the mix. And they have bid farewell to Jalen Naylor, who I think we all kind of knew that was in the cards, and that he was going to play pretty well over the course of the past 2 seasons and was going to command a contract that the Vikings, while they're paying Justin Jefferson $35 million a year and at least having Jordan Addison eligible for a contract extension this spring, we're not going to be able to afford.
How about the Case Keenum update? Doesn't involve the Vikings, but the ex-Viking apparently re-signing with the Monsters of the Midway, the Crown Point, Indiana Bears, on a 2-year, $5.5 million deal, max value of $8 million. I mean, Case has done it right, has he not? He has found a way, and because now the bid is great veteran leadership. Caleb loves working with him. Is in his ear all the time, great rapport, the whole bit. Whatever it is, it's he kind of keeps getting regenerated, even if it's not with the intent that he's actually going to play.
Well, what if all the credit that people gave to Ben Johnson for Caleb Williams' success last year really should go to Case Keenum and all the work that they did in the quarterback room when no one else was looking?
There you go.
Can't rule it out. You can't rule it out.
Well, I still miss him.
Case might be the new, I was going to say the new Chase Daniel, who was also made a trip through Chicago, and his career kind of fizzled once he actually had to play. He was the classic backup who rarely had to play early in his career. Case Keenum played a lot more earlier in his career than Chase did. But in terms of being a backup quarterback who teams really want to have but don't necessarily long for the days when they can actually put him on the field, he's definitely up there.
What are we, leaving aside the quarterback for a moment, do you think we're eyeing any position? We know we need a center. We know we need a running back. Now, I know there's a draft coming up as well, but those are 2, I think, pretty crucial positions. You could say they've got a running back, but it doesn't sound like they want him to be the full-time running back, and they'd like to up the ante at that position. So where are we left, maybe you think, that we might, in terms of free agency, spend money, or do you think we might already be close to done?
No, I don't think they're done. I think they're mostly sitting out the first wave, which we kind of thought was going to be the case. There's going to be running backs that are available. The center situation is going to be interesting. You saw what Taylor Linderbaum from the Ravens got going to the Raiders. I think it was a huge jump over what the top center was getting, and so center money is pretty crazy right now. It's not out of the realm of possibility that Blake Randall and Michael Juergens kind of fight out that in a competition for that job. And we'll see if they're able to add anybody further in the draft. The other position that you just look at and you say you wonder if where the bodies are going to come from are defensive tackle. Sure. If they end up following through and releasing Javon Hargrave and Jonathan Allen. They do have some really intriguing young players there. And there's been some online talk that I think is not just online talk, but real talk about the role that defensive linemen play in Brian Flores' scheme, and whether if you sign a quote unquote playmaker, if the scheme is going to maximize and optimize that type of defensive tackle. And so, but I do think that that's a position where you just at least isn't clear that they have enough bodies yet as well.
All right. So speaking of centers, as you well know, the Bears were going to need a center because they're, one of their key acquisitions from a year ago, right? Dahlman, he decides he's done. And they go out and they make a deal with New England to bring Garrett Bradbury back in the division. And right away, when I mentioned that on air, people, they guffawed, they laughed, they said, well, good luck to the Bears. We've seen what he can do. I'm not sure we should be quite that haughty about any of our decisions when it comes to offensive line and even center, because I think he was Garrett Bradbury was even with his butt sweat, was representative in New England. And so maybe the Bears have some other way to use him. I'm not sure. How do we feel about this notion that, well, Bears are done at center if they are desperate enough to have to acquire Garrett Bradbury?
No, I think it just speaks to the surplus or the lack of surplus of players at that position. Yeah. I mean, I don't think anyone, with a quote unquote personnel tag in the NFL is going to tell you that Garrett Bradbury is some hugely underrated performer and that he is going to go down as one of the best centers of the generation or anything like that. But he's good enough to play.
Yes.
And a lot of teams, the Patriots, had a need and they got a full season out of him. I believe they have a young player that they're moving from guard to center, and that maybe was their plan all along, but they just weren't ready to do it last year. And so if there's 32 other better centers in the NFL or coming up through the draft combined with what's in the NFL than Garrett Bradbury, I guess I'd be surprised. So you have to. It's a unique position and requires a unique skill set. And I'm not saying there's not many people in the world who can do it, but he's definitely one of the top 32. Right. And so whether the Vikings have even one of the top 32 centers in the league, I don't know if I could say that for sure right now. And so we'll see where they go with that. But there's definitely some flaws in Garrett Bradbury's game, but there's also obviously a lot of strengths, or else he wouldn't have made it as far as he had.
I guess my point is, and I feel like I played into this as much as anybody, especially after the last two games 2 seasons ago.
You would never do that.
Oh my God. Well, because that's what you guys told me. And that's actually what the coach said too, which was, we're getting overwhelmed in the interior line, and we're getting physically overpowered. And my God, what are we doing with Garrett Bradbury? He's 3'6". She's shorter than Kyler Murray, for God's sake. What are we going to do? And I just think it becomes, because the line wasn't very good, it becomes what must be the player. And maybe, again, some of it was because he's not a perfect center, as you say. But maybe some of it, didn't we just make a line coach change too? So I'm just saying, and different teams might have different strengths or different approaches that also enter into it. So the notion that a guy who stunk here or was perceived as having stunk here enough to where we have to make a change could actually end up being a decent player someplace else. I just think we need to remember that.
Yeah, I mean, but they felt like they could upgrade there, and they did. I mean, Ryan Kelly is objectively a better player than him and was playing objectively better last season when he was on the field. The issue was, and the reason Ryan Kelly was available was not necessarily concussions specifically, but just health in general. And so, and we saw how that played out, and then he's now retired. But I think that they looked at last year and thought, well, they could upgrade, and they did for the time that they had him out there, and it did make it a fundamental difference in their offense. So I don't, they made a value choice that in an analytic choice that they could get that level of play from Ryan Kelly over the course of if not the full season, a lot more than they did. When the old truism in football is that injured players get injured. Ended up being the case.
Well, yeah, but again, wouldn't the fact that they made a change in the offensive line in terms of the staff that indicate that they think it's more complicated than that too? To me, that's an acknowledgement. And by the way, I don't even know if that's fair to that coach. I have no idea. You can maybe speak to that better than I. But that tells me also there's maybe a little bit of concern about that must go because you can't blame him for injury, right? That you're talking about. But yet they still decided, all right, there's something else we need to take another look at or adjust. Correct?
Yeah. And I think that, and we'll probably talk to Kevin O'Connell more about this over the course of the offseason, but I think that the offensive line coach change is an indicator of a different approach they're going to take in the running game in general in terms of, and I'm not saying it's going to result in more volume. Mm-hmm. You know, I don't know what the design run percentage is going to be compared to last year, and if that part changes at all. But I think that they're going to change the style of running, the types of run play. I mean, there's there's zone, there's you know, all the different kinds of run game schemes that you can use. And the assistant head coach they brought in, Frank Smith, has a long history with that as well. And so I think he's going to be working pretty closely with the offensive line as well. And I think that the larger picture is that, especially from the run game, that's what's driving some of these coaching personnel changes, is a desire to do things a little differently from a run game standpoint to improve the effectiveness, even if it doesn't necessarily impact the frequency.
Yeah, well, I think for a lot of us, it isn't always frequency. Some of it's frequency. Yeah. Some of it's time. Yeah. Some of it is just more effective. And do you care enough about it to delve into those things? And now maybe we're seeing signs that they finally are. We'll see. I admit I'm starting to feel like I'm out on a ledge by myself. I wouldn't say by myself, but that I'm in the minority because all the tea leaves tell me we're headed to the Kyler Murray era. It doesn't. The way I put it yesterday was, I understand this may be in their mind the best of not very great choices, but if I'm being honest, what I think I have a right to say is I'm not inspired by it. It's not something that excites me. It's not something going on. I go, yes, okay, I can see where this might be going, and I continue to believe the reasons should be obvious. I mean, the people who've been around him admit it becomes easy to get fascinated with some of his athleticism and some of the plays that he does make and can make. But it's the old question, and now he's young, but he's played isn't like 8 years. He's been around forever. Yeah. That the sort of just the dull plays, the plays in between the spectacular plays that good veteran quarterbacks make, he doesn't make his share of them or enough of them. His quarterback ratings, except for one of your QBRs 2 years ago, have been pretty close to dreadful. And I think he's lost. I think he was in one playoff game and lost it. So, am I too negative on Kyler? Do you say, well, here are the reasons, even with all that, why he should be more intriguing to you and maybe some of the Vikings fans out there who, similarly to me, just aren't very inspired by this prospect?
No, I mean, I think that 28-year-old quarterbacks don't become available on accident. I mean, he's from a time frame standpoint, he should be at the prime of his career. You know, he's got a lot of experience in the NFL now and in a couple of different schemes, and he should be hitting with the team that he was with that had him signed to a contract that's going to pay him this year $37 million to not be on their team. He should be at a point where he was ready to really, start flying and, on a high level quarterback play. And the fact that he's going to be available for $1 million or $1.3 million, like that should support what you're feeling. I mean, the Cardinals, are one of the worst franchises in the NFL. And if they don't think that he can help them when they've already paid his salary for this year, as we've talked about, like that to me, should be sobering. But it also, to me, depends on what you think or where you put him in your classification of coming here. What's he coming here to do? Is he coming here to be your franchise quarterback? Then yeah, that is scary. Based on the ups and downs that we've seen. Is he here to be just another 1-year guy that there's been many instances of over the course of Vikings history to get you to bridge you to some other era that they anticipate? Or do they still think that his presence alone will light such a fire under J.J. McCarthy that he will, in essence, establish an immediate bridge to J.J. McCarthy as a higher level quarterback, and then they move forward with him? And so, those are lots of different buckets that you could put him in. And if your true goal is to light a fire under J.J. McCarthy and get him to play at the level you want him to play at, then Kyler Murray is the best player to get him to do that, because he's the best guy out there. If you just view him as a part of an ingredient into the ongoing, continuing, and hopefully accelerating development of J.J. McCarthy, that makes a lot of sense. If McCarthy falls short of that, you still have to play the season, or he gets hurt. You still have to play the season. And of the people who are out there, I think you would have a higher ceiling in terms of quarterback play and in terms of running, getting Justin Jefferson the ball, running this offense, than you would have for any of the other people who are available. And so that's not to damn it with faint praise. And I totally, in a lot of ways, support what you're saying in terms of not being excited about it, but it's the situation they're in, and it's ultimately what you are hoping to accomplish out of bringing him in, because there's some areas where he could be really effective for them, as we've said.
Is there much chance that there could be, as odd as this sounds, a bidding war for Kyler Murray? Because the assumption is, well, he's getting a bunch of money for, the Arizona's giving him a bunch of money to just leave. He's got that, so you can pay him for the minimum. But is it possible there's going to be enough teams interested in him that there might be a team out there that says, we'll throw more into the kitty? How does that work? I mean, is that something that could get in the way? Or do you think there is anybody that the Vikings will be competing against for him?
I think the vast majority of the competition will be for opportunity and how different teams would sell themselves to him in terms of his ability to come in for 1 year and have a great season and sort of restore his reputation and be productive. I mean, in theory, he's supposed to make $38 million, and anything that a team pays him short of that would just be deferred from what the Cardinals are paying. Right. So I guess you could offer him $50 million, and then you pay $13 million, and they pay the 37. But I don't anticipate it getting to that point, and I could be wrong about that, but I don't anticipate it getting to that point. I think teams are, to the extent that they're competing for him, will be competing with their opportunities that they're offering.
How soon are we going to know?
I mean, Jeremy Fowler from ESPN, some other reporters have suggested that he's going to take his time, and there could even potentially be visits. Ooh. That's pretty rare or unheard of in free agency. It would get nerve-wracking if you're a team that really wants him and you haven't gone and gotten anybody else. You saw that last year, what happened with the Aaron Rodgers saga, and the Giants ultimately had to bail and sign Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston, which didn't help them very much. And so, but I hope that we know by Wednesday evening, because that will have given everybody chances to at least talk. They're able to talk, according to Schefter, via Zoom right now, and so hopefully, and then they can start negotiating after the Wednesday at 4 Eastern. But hopefully, it won't take too much longer than that.
So the assumption is the only other fallback would be Geno, or is he in what you've reported on or believe, and the folks you've talked to, would he be a distant second? Is there somebody else that still might end up being a wild card here, or do you think it's pretty much Kyler Murray or bust?
No, and I think that that's a significant change from last year when they were Daniel Jones or bust. And I think that they realized the mistake there, that, that there needs to be a process of if A doesn't work, then you go to B, and if B doesn't work, you go to C. And so I don't think Geno Smith is a distant second from what I understand, but, I think he and Kyler are in that maybe first tier of people that they would be looking at. But, then you get into the Kirk Cousins of the world, as well. And I guess into the Aaron Rodgerses of the world, if that becomes a possibility. That's another one where the timing is unclear. But I think that they will have, if for some reason they want Kyler Murray and he signs somewhere else, and they want Geno Smith and he signed somewhere else, I guess I'd be surprised if they missed out on both of them. But if that happened, there will be a plan to go to the next person, and it might be Kurt. We'll see.
Let me get to a couple of texts real quick. Kevin Seifert, ESPN.com. Do we have any? I mean, there are people who believe that another key issue with Kyler, even if you like him or you think, get him out of there, get him to a different place. He's shown some signs, sometimes there's life with that second team. We've seen it in the case of Darnold. It wasn't his second team, but again, it came later. But then the comeback also is durability with him, which is already obviously an issue with the guy you have here, the incumbent here in J.J. McCarthy. What about how do the Vikings go about factoring that in? Whether, even if you love him, the chances that you're going to see him stay on the field?
I think they know the history. They know that he has gotten hurt in a lot of seasons, whether it's the foot injury or the ACL or whatever else. And I think that will inform how they build out the rest of the room. And, I don't know if we talked about it or not, Schefter mentioned Carson Wentz a couple weeks ago. I guess what I anticipate is them having a full room of veteran quarterbacks to ensure that whether it's Kyler or whether it's JJ, that they're not left in a situation like they were last year with Max Brosmer or a couple years ago with Jaron Hall, where they're starting a guy who's significantly limited in what they can do in the offense at that time. And so I personally expect JJ McCarthy to be the only young, quote unquote, unproven quarterback on the roster. We'll see how that eventually plays out, but my sense is that they're going to be very deliberative about making sure they have a backup to a backup to the backup to the backup, and that they're not in a position where either they're starting somebody in a regular season game who they can't run their offense with, or they're getting to the end of training camp and having to go out and see who's available at the last second as well. I think all of the people talk about the decision they made with Sam Darnold and the inability to get Daniel Jones, but there was just a cascade of unfortunately timed quarterback moves or lack of quarterback moves that happened in conjunction with that to put them in the situation they were in last year.
I think we've addressed this before, but if you do sign Kyler, you sign him to be the starter, correct?
I think that's going to be a fascinating first question to Kevin O'Connell or Rob Brzezinski or however that works, because while they have not said J.J. McCarthy is our quarterback, the theme of every message that they've given publicly has been, we want somebody to compete. So does that mean that they are going to try to suggest that Kyler Murray comes in here to compete with J.J. McCarthy? Can they sign him if they tell him he's going to have to come in and compete with J.J.? Is that a requirement that he would have to accept in order to have the opportunity to play with Justin Jefferson, et cetera, et cetera? We'll see. But I have they can obviously say whatever they want and they can conduct the practices however they want. I think you'll have a hard time finding too many people who would think that if he signs here that he isn't the de facto starter, even if they're not willing to say it publicly.
All right, one last item. By the way, there's a part of me that says he should be asked to compete, that he's not in an exalted enough position at this point when he's rejected by a team that still has to pay him all the money they did to be anything but, you want to come in and compete? You can, but I get your point. if you think it's vital that you get him, you might not be able to play that game if another team says you're going to be a starter. But at this point, I'm thinking, no, yeah, come on in, and we'll have a circus training. You'll love it. The Jackals will love it. Have an open competition. And by the way, if it goes the way they probably think it would, Murray would we would assume would win the job. But we'll see. Let's jump ahead. Let's say he comes in, and let's say he has a Darnold-like season. And maybe even wins, let's say he wins one playoff game. They have to think of the Super Bowl. But they go one step further than they did with Darnold. Can they afford to, at that point, do the same thing they did with Darnold and say, you know what? Too much money, man. Now he's the bidding war is going to be too great. We're not going to give him a $100 million contract on the basis of the one good season. Can you go back to the other JJ, Justin Jefferson, with a straight face and say, hey, love what you did with Kyler, but it's too much money. It's too long. We don't think he's that good. We now think the other JJ is ready. You'll have to live with that. Can they do that twice in 3 years with a straight face?
I don't see how they can do it. And I tried to research that scenario where a top 10 quarterback gets benched essentially in the offseason by somebody, or surpassed in the offseason by somebody that's acquired from the outside, and that guy plays out the season, and then the original young quarterback comes back in future seasons and wins his job back. Like, there's no precedent for that. I could not find a single case where teams do that. And again, the Darnold thing wasn't so much the money; it was that they had JJ in their back pocket and thought that he was going to be their guy.
Yes.
So after seeing JJ for 10 games, and then if Kyler Murray were to have a great season, and then he would be age 29, to then let him go to the highest bidder as well in favor of bringing back JJ again. Like, it's hard to, obviously so many things could change, and who knows what the specifics will be, but from a broad sense, like, you already made that mistake once. It got the general manager fired among other reasons. And it's hard to imagine that them, if they face that exact same scenario, they already saw JJ for 10 games, and they have a lot more information about him than they did at the time of the Darnold. So, I guess we could see, and I'm sure this will hit Old Takes Exposed at some point, but it is hard to imagine if Kyler Murray ends up the starting quarterback. It's not impossible that JJ McCarthy eventually becomes a starter again, especially if there's like an injury and he jumps right back in there and after a few games. But if he sits out the entire season as a backup to Kyler Murray, and then the idea that he would then be ready to take over the job, maybe he would be, but no teams have ever operated that way.
Now, most importantly, have you yet recovered from the skipper's devastation in the 2A hockey high school championship game? Up 3-0, up 4-1, lose in devastating second overtime fashion.
It was devastating. I felt terrible for the families and the kids, and obviously a lot of emotions. And I saw there was a fair bit of online discussion about post-game behavior or whatnot. But it was I will say this: they'll be back. Minnetonka, this is not the first time they've been in the state tournament. It won't be the last. And they definitely got dealt with some disappointment, but they'll be back, and so will I.
So is it fair to say that if I'd have said to Kevin Seifert 20 years ago, there'll be a moment eventually when you are that invested,
they'll be back
in any high school program in any sport, to say they'll be back, you'd have looked at me and mocked and laughed and ridiculed me, correct?
I have never felt more confident in making a prediction. You always ask me what the Vikings are going to do, and I just make it up and pretend that I know what I'm talking about. I know this in my soul that Minnetonka hockey will be back.
No, but the bigger thing for me is your level of investment. That's what I appreciate. That's what I'm wondering if you could have seen that coming 20 years ago. That's the
in all serious, and like mostly serious.
Yes.
I would have laughed even harder than however you would have laughed. but it is wild how you feel differently about it when you know some of the families.
Absolutely.
And you live in the community. Yep. And like you feel the same things that the people in your neighboring area feel. And so I do, like, I'm shocked, but it's a real thing. And like, I don't know what it'll feel like when I no longer have kids in high school, but I hope that I'll, still maintain a lot of those connections, but it definitely feels different when you know the people involved.
Investment is good. Thank you for the time. Yeah. If anything breaks later today on Kyler, you want to call us back, you know the hotline.
Sounds good.
Thank you. Kevin Seifert, ESPN.com, extended version. Let's get caught up after a short pause, react to a couple of his nuggets, and prepare for Johnny Athletic at the top of the hour. Garzi tells me the Tua to Minnesota dream has died. There were several people who wanted us to go that direction with the left-hander. You tell me that he has signed a 1-year, I'm assuming one of those make-good deals with the Atlanta Falcons. Is that correct?
That is what we're hearing. Yeah, Shefty tweeted it out a little while ago.
So they've got two lefties. Isn't the Penix kid, the IU guy, who went on to greatness in the not the Pac-10. Well, I guess it was the Pac-10 then.
Washington, yeah.
University of Washington. They got two lefty. How often does that happen in the National Football League?
I was actually just trying to think about that on the fly, but it makes it simpler for everybody, right?
Yes, it does.
It makes it simpler for the offensive lineman. Yes. Same blind side.
The center knows which cheek is going to get touched more than the other, right? On the basis of the...
It's very important.
Yeah, all those things fit together. Yeah, it can get confusing.
You don't want the wrong cheek touched. Especially if you got
butt sweat.
You don't want the wrong cheek touched.
Very, very true, Davey. So Tua is gone.
Your guy Trubisky's still around, too?
He just signed a 2-year deal with the Titans.
Yeah.
Now, I'm assuming that's not the start, but I don't know. Maybe it is.
No, don't they have Levis?
Oh, they got the kid. Yeah, they got the no.
Oh, they have Ward.
No, they've got Ward. Yeah. Exactly. I think somebody mentioned that Levis is available to. I used to love Levis. I was convinced that he had all the. And then I saw a couple of those underhand passes he threw for interceptions, and I said, well, I don't think I want to go down that road.
In all honesty, is there anything better than being an aging backup quarterback?
No.
That is the greatest gig ever. You mentioned Keenum with Seifert. You just go on and on and on and on. No one ever wants you to play.
You cause no controversy.
Nothing.
You just act interested with the other quarterbacks, especially the kid quarterback.
You just help them out.
Whether you are helping them out or not, you give you lend to the perception that you're helping, and they'll just keep signing you. Another 2-year deal that could end up being $8 million.
And think about all the benefits, too. The pensions, the 401ks, the health insurance. We just saw it. Phillip Rivers just came back to get another year of health insurance, right? Actually, I think
right.
Even more. I think it was longer.
Was that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What a gig.
651 guy, hey, Dan, another sports gambling scandal. I guess only Ohtani can get away with it. Was he talking about the one we started the show with, or is there another one that just broke?
I think it's probably that one.
The soccer one is the one we talked about. 2 players banned for life. Caught not only betting, but betting on games involving their own teams, including whether one of them would get a yellow card. And lo and behold, in that particular game or match, that player did. So if there's another one, let me know beyond the soccer one. Let me hit this again. This is not free agency. Well, it's free agency news of a sort. But the Fox 9 Enough Said program has announced that it has signed free agent Bill Guerin to a 1-show Enough Said contract.
But you know what?
He is going to be, well, I guess it would be tri-hosting. Co-hosting? What's it? What if you have 3?
Is
it still co-hosting? Is co mean 2?
No, I think co just means multiple.
Multiple. All right. Yeah. Well, regardless, he's going to be on the panel with Garzi and me.
But you know what?
And Lori Fisher on this Friday night's edition of the Enough Said program. And I was when Lori Fisher suggested the idea.
Yeah.
I being, the haughty one I am, I just assumed, well, you go ahead and try, but you're probably going to need me or Garzi or both to sort of, just grease the wheels. You're not going to get that done on your own.
Lori Fisher.
And Lori Fisher got it done.
Got it done. It was a great text
She
to get.
got it done. It's outstanding. So kind of a different look to Enough Said on Friday. Now, does this necessitate we talk all hockey?
I don't think so. I think we let him branch out a little bit. There's plenty to talk about hockey-wise with him, obviously.
Do we dare branch out into politics with Bill Guerin?
I wouldn't. I wouldn't.
Well, he has a right to an opinion.
He does.
But that could make things interesting. No question about that.
I do worry, though. With Lori, there's not that I don't trust her.
Oh, no, I know what you're going to say. She's going to do the... you remember when the Farley
Chris
bit?
Farley
She's
bit.
going to do the Chris Farley bit.
Yep.
Where she's just glomming on to just all over Bill Guerin so much that he starts rolling his eyes and says, my God, just let me do this and get out of here.
Right. I'm worried for people that don't watch the TV show, and I know there's very few that don't, because it's a fabulous show every Friday night on Fox 9. Lori has a habit, whenever there's someone of high, let's just say it, a celebrity or a big shot, or someone of...
Especially in the pop culture world.
Yes. She does fangirl at an exceedingly high level, and that includes mascots at games, so much so that she's knocked kids out of the way to take a picture with Crunch at a Timberwolves game.
Well, hasn't she been banned from a couple of arenas?
If she hasn't been, she's on a list for sure.
That's what I thought.
So I worry about that, like you say, that she's going to Farley it, or she's going to try to finagle a way to do Let's Play Hockey or something for her and her Maple Grove moms. That's what I worry about.
Drive the Zamboni.
Yeah. We ever do
like
that, Bill? Because this idea kind of came out of nowhere, so I don't trust that there's not a different angle.
Yeah, there could be. I hadn't even thought of that, but we're going to have to pay attention.
So we're going to, we are, because for Lori, it's one shot, right? You text and talk with Bill Guerin more than most people know.
And this is her deal.
This is her Super Bowl
moment. Yeah, you're right.
So we're going to be left with the carnage if it goes badly. So I'm a little hesitant, but she's very excited about it, and it'll be cool to have him on the show.
It'll be fun. Yeah, it'll be a nice change of pace. We're hitting into the stretch run of hockey, so the timing is perfect. And I'm glad we were able to work that out. So we're looking forward to that on Friday. I don't know times yet. Regular time on Fox 9 is 9:30. Gets moved around a lot depending on sports and other issues. And then Fox 9 Plus, 7:30. But this is hockey season, so it might be a little bit later. I'm not sure. We'll keep an eye on that as we get into later in the week. How about Johnny Athletic? He is on his way to Los Angeles. He's tracking the Wolves fresh off a not particularly distinguished performance at home against the Orlando Magic, a matinee game on Saturday. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about really any good NBA nuggets, maybe some draft stuff as well, and maybe some more likely free agency with the Vikings than draft, because I don't think at this point we want to get into too much draft stuff. But all of that with Johnny, that is coming up after a very brief pause.